Hi everyone, welcome back. So today I'd like to do the second part to the video I've done last week. And in this video we're going to cover 13 things you should never do in Poland. Let's see if I agree.
So I've been living here in Poland for a few months now, and I gotta say it's been awesome. However, my experience here has not been perfect, and there are a few things that I have done that have definitely rubbed Polish people the wrong way. So today I wanted to share with you things that you absolutely should not do here in Poland. So one of the stereotypes here is that Polish people don't smile. That's half true and half not true. It's more like they walk around with a resting bitch face all the time, I'm gonna be completely honest, but that's just a part of the culture, especially if they don't know you. However, once Polish people get to know you, they are incredibly friendly and welcoming, small talk and everything. What I've learned is how to do the Polish smile, and the Polish smile is just like this. It's kind of like a half grin. You don't really show your teeth. You just kind of bow your head as a sign of respect. But it's not like people are going to be greeting you and welcoming you super smiley like they are in a place like maybe Spain or Latin America. Don't be afraid to smile at strangers though. If you see a girl that you happen to think is very, very pretty, go ahead and smile. And if she likes you, there's a possibility that she will smile back.
Okay, I will pause here for a second. So it seems like a repetition from the previous video. There's no smiling thing was mentioned. And he literally just made the same points I made on the previous video, saying that we've got that resting bitch face and that we are quite warm and welcoming eventually and smiley when we get to know you. So it's quite right. And yeah, if there is somebody you fancy and like and you know, send them a little smile, they might smile back.
Just know that it's not the cultural norm here. And if people don't smile back at you, just don't take it personally.
Yeah, if we don't smile back, it's nothing personal. If anything, we might think it's just like, oh yeah, you clearly are from abroad, you're not Polish. You know, you don't know us, you don't know how we use our facial expressions.
Let's talk about small talk. Slavic people in general are not really into small talk. People are generally minding their own business, as opposed to the US, where if we want to do anything, we always have to get the formalities out of the way. How are you? How's your family? How are you doing today? All of these things. Polish people are not like that. Polish people are a lot more direct. And this is something I've grown accustomed to because I actually like it. Slavic people are very honest and direct people. Don't beat around the bush or anything. If you want something, just ask for it clearly. If you say you're gonna do something, do it.
Yeah, so for the longest time, I didn't know if that's an autistic trait or is it just me being Polish, but we are quite direct. And if you go and ask, and I think what lots of Polish people were or are maybe still struggling in England whenever they heard that how are you, that is literally an invitation for us to start moaning and complaining about everything and anything that is currently happening in our life. We keep forgetting that how are you is just simply hello, and it doesn't mean anything else. So guaranteed we're gonna give you more details. So I'm not fully agreeing with him that we direct and we don't want to go into detail about, you know, our lives. Yeah, we do. If you just ask that question, you're gonna get the answer straight as is without sugarcoating.
Number 3, politics. You do not want to talk politics with Polish people. Now, if you are super well versed in it and this is what you study, sure, argue your point. But there are 2 things that Polish people love to do. They love to complain and they love to argue. As someone who is an outsider, I tend to stray away from talking about politics because 1, I didn't grow up here, so I don't know the history behind everything. And honestly, it's just not worth the argument that it's going to create. A lot of Polish family gatherings will eventually turn into talking about politics or religion and people will be screaming at each other. Like, that's how intense it gets. If you are a foreigner here, just know that we're guests and I try to stay away from talking about politics as much as possible.
Yes, politics. And then with that, history, it's such a sensitive topic. You really don't want to go there. I'm so far removed from the politics right now, and it doesn't matter if it's English or Polish politics, I mean British politics, that I just don't want to have those conversations. I'm so way past it because I know it's just gonna lead to arguments, discussions, and then those arguments can turn to like really, really irritated conversations, let's say.
Something you definitely do not want to do here is say that Poland is a part of Eastern Europe. They will correct you and say that they are Central Europe, and they're very proud of it.
Yes, sorry, I'm immediately stopping. This pisses me off so much because people keep saying that we're Eastern Europeans when we're not. And the problem is people are so just used to what politically or where politically we were sat decades ago. But from geographical point of view, we are in the center of Europe. We could even argue in the heart of Europe, and Poland is even shaped like a heart. So it does really pisses me off if somebody says I'm Eastern European. No, I'm Central European. Not that I have anything against Eastern Europe. No, not whatsoever. But I just hate when somebody is just inaccurate. And worst is arguing with me about it, and he just goes and just pushes us off. Yeah, but politically you were linked to Russia, communism and everything. Yes, key term, where? We're not anymore. Please stop saying we're Eastern Europeans, because we are not.
And I can even see that in their culture. Poland is definitely a lot more westernized than some of the more eastern countries such as Russia and Ukraine. They're very, very particular about that topic. So if you are mentioning Poland, always say that it is Central Europe, not Eastern Europe. There's also a very strong anti-Russian sentiment here. In one of my videos, I openly stated that I wanted to learn Russian over Polish, not because I support the country, but because Russian is an infinitely more useful language. But just even saying something small like that, people were roasting me in the comments. So honestly, I would try staying away from that topic as much as possible.
Yes, and then again, it's to do with history. It's still very fresh in our minds, although I myself, or even my parents, didn't live through war, but my grandparents did. And then unfortunately, especially in my family, the sentiment is that they really, really hate Russians. They are a bit with Germans, especially that my grandparents, they actually were captives of Germans from what I remember. And I'm really regretting that I don't know more about it because both of my grandparents are dead now. From what I know, my grandparents met in captivity when they were kept by German farmers and they were treated well. So their own personal sentiment to Germans is not too bad. When it comes to Russians, it is really bad. And especially from the area where I'm from, which is north of Poland, and we're talking Gdańsk, Gdynia, Sopot. When war has ended, it was officially announced that war has ended. Russians, as a last hooray, still went and bombed lots of historic places such as Gdańsk and even my hometown, I think, Malbork, out of anger, I suppose. So this area, especially north of Poland, has a really big hatred to Russians. Funny enough, with Germans, we're kind of cordial now because they tried at least to do something to fix our relationship post-war. And on top of that, everybody was celebrating end of war when in Poland really that war was still happening. Everybody thinks that yes, Poland was liberated, but ultimately right after war we went onto the regime of Russians. So communism was in power in Poland, and living during that times wasn't the best. So we technically were still captives of Russians.
Another thing you should avoid doing is talking about how your country is superior to Poland. You have to keep in mind that Poland back in the day was quite a poor country. Okay, so apparently I got this fact wrong. Back in the day, Warsaw used to be seen as the second Paris, but because of the war, everything got destroyed. So I may have made a mistake on that, but I'm sure Polish people will correct me in the comments down below. So a lot of Polish people migrated into other countries, such as the US and a lot of places in Western Europe. And Polish people have been associated with being almost second-class citizens. That's definitely changing now because Poland is quickly becoming a strong superpower in Europe. But I think that reputation has put a large chip on the shoulders of Polish people. So a lot of Americans like to travel to other countries and use the fact that they are American to try to get girls. That does not work here. Polish people are very nationalistic. They are very proud of their country, even though they spend a lot of time complaining about it. So if you feel like you're superior in any way because of your culture, try to keep those comments to yourself.
Yes, but I think lots of nationalities are guilty of that. I'm lucky enough that I've traveled. And I also met lots of people here in UK that were from different countries. I were here just in passing or doing internships and stuff like that. And each of them would display similar characteristics. And it doesn't matter if they were from Mexico or from Germany or Russia, Lithuania, and even English people. I always laugh that English people hate everyone. They always were fighting with somebody, either they were with cahoots or fighting against French, Spaniards, Germans. So I think it's not an isolated case. I think lots of people from different countries have that pride of belonging or being citizens of those countries. Obviously, it's very, very different when you in Poland, visit Poland and trying to say, you're not as good as us, we Americans are better than you. It's never going to sit well with anyone. And yes, of course, we love to complain about country, about government, like lots of other people from other countries too. Again, as I said, and I repeat myself over and over again, I live in Great Britain and people love complaining about the government here too. So I think it's just a thing that everyone of us has. So in a sense, I would really, really dream that there was no countries and it was just one big country, and then we didn't look to separate each other based on where we're from, what language we speak, and how we judge other people and treat them as a second-class citizens. And to the point where it was said that Polish people were migrating to different countries, it was simply because they were trying to escape the Russian regime post-war, looking for better times, because they knew that we'd still be in some kind of occupation at the end of the day. Therefore, the decision. And I'm just thinking now, as well, that feeling of being a second-class citizen, I think it comes internally from Polish people a lot as well. Only because, again, as I said, the war was very fresh, or is very fresh in Polish minds, because even if we didn't live through it, our grandparents, great-grandparents lived through it. Because I know people who in their 50s and 60s migrated here to UK. So it's still very, very fresh in our minds, and what the sentiments we had and how we constantly tried to prove ourselves and being looked at as an alien in a different country, only because we were trying to escape and find a better world for ourselves.
Another thing you don't want to do here is flash your wealth. Polish people are quite humble by nature, and they're very frugal. It reminds me a lot of Chinese people in this way. Slavic women get a reputation for being gold diggers, materialistic, and maybe that's a little more true in places like Ukraine and Russia. But Polish people, especially the women, are not like that at all. If you want to come here, try to be a big baller and flash your wealth to everybody, nobody's really going to be impressed by that, because that's just not that important here. And if anything, it's going to attract a lot of the wrong people who only want to use you and take advantage of you.
Yeah, exactly. I cannot speak for any other Slavic people. I know that stereotypes going around, because I don't have full details. I don't want to speak about that. I just don't like generalizing. Although I'm responding to videos when we're generalizing specific behaviors in Polish people, but that's the whole idea, for me to respond to it and tell you how I feel about it, if it's in any way, any shape or form true or not. And I think I was always taught that if I want to achieve anything or get anything in life, I need to do it through hard work. My dad was very stern when it comes to even borrowing stuff. He would not let me go and borrow something from anybody, because he said to me, what are you going to do if you break it? You don't have any money of your own. How are you going to pay it back or give it back? You can't give it back broken. Although he himself, whenever somebody did ask that they needed something, he would go and let that thing to them. But he himself didn't want to be in debt, and he wanted to teach me and my brothers to always fend for ourselves. And we've got a saying in Polish, if you can't count on yourself. And I think this is where it comes from. Besides, I'm quite proud, and I've got big pride in me when it comes to being self-efficient and being independent and being able to do things myself. I lived in this country, in UK, for many, many years on my own. Even when my English wasn't the best, I was still trying to go and get anything sorted when it comes to banks, any tax offices, anything like that. I decided that if I can't communicate enough and I'm not getting anywhere with that, tough, I will keep trying until I can.
I know a lot of foreigners who have come talking about cold approaching the women here and saying that the women are quite responsive. However, I don't think it's just a norm in Polish culture, and since I'm here, I want to try to assimilate to how the Polish people do it. If you do approach a group of people, it's not to say that they're going to totally reject you, just know that that's not really in the cultural norm here. When people go out, people normally stay within their groups and don't really interact with each other.
Yeah, I think it's just essentially simply for safety reasons. We try to keep in the group. We're making sure that we're not leaving anybody behind. Just pragmatic, really. Stick to what you know.
But honestly, I like the fact that everybody minds their own business because I feel like I can just walk down the street and people don't really pay attention to me. Also because there are a lot of Asians here, I don't really stand out as much as I did when I was in Colombia. If you're going to be living here in Poland, try your best to assimilate. And I think this is just proper manners to do any country that you try to live in the world. I think a lot of people from the West and a lot of digital nomads will go and live in a place for a year or two, try to bring their home culture to wherever they're staying. Don't do that here. The Polish people will not take too kindly to that. So once again, my friend corrected me and she said that Poland is actually quite open to other cultures. They just don't like it when you try to pressure them into changing for your culture. And I think that's one of the main reasons why there's a lot of negative stereotypes against Muslims and African immigrants right now. However, they do love Americans here. So you can say that you're proudly American. Just try not to put Poland down in the process.
And I think that statement should be really true anywhere we go. Stay open-minded to any culture, any religion there is, but not try to bend over for another countries, another cultures, another religions just to accommodate them, because that can cause lots of issues, which we could see a few years back what happened in France, what is happening in UK right now. This is like really, really big and deep topic where I don't really want to go into too much because I don't want to cause too much of a commotion. But just to simplify it, I think that wherever we go, we should always respect all these cultures and display your own culture in a way that is not clashing with the culture of the country you're in. That you are being respectful towards people you are with and respect their traditions. You know, it's all okay to be open-minded, to be accepting of different people from different backgrounds, but it doesn't mean that we need to change for them, especially if that change is not good. If it's good, it should be food for thought. And we think that maybe we could learn from that neighboring country or neighboring culture and use it as a means of progressing, not going backwards.
Polish is a very difficult language to learn, so I don't think the locals expect you to speak super fluently, especially if you've moved here, because a lot of people here do speak English. I've been here for 7 months and I have not learned it yet because I know it's going to require a lot of dedicated effort. But I think showing basic respect for the language, learning some basic phrases like hello, goodbye, thank you, stuff like that will go a long way. So definitely show some respect for the culture and the language, even though I understand how difficult it is.
Again, same to me is a blanket statement, not unique to Polish people. Wherever you go, try to learn one sentence, phrase in a native tongue where you are, because it always makes the natives and people you're seeing, you know, in the country you're visiting, feeling nice and warm that you actually made an effort instead of just leaning into English only all the way. I think it is just a nice thing to do in general, no matter where you go. And yes, Polish language is really difficult to learn. I don't know if you saw any comments on the previous video. We had a debate there speaking and talking about, you know, if Polish language is top 3 of the difficult ones in the world. And then my point of view is that it depends who you ask, because if it's somebody from any other Slavic country, that will be much easier for them to learn Polish. If it's somebody from English-speaking country, it's gonna be on the top level over there. Comparing Polish grammar to English grammar, completely 2 different worlds, and I know how difficult it is to teach it because I actually teach Polish. I've got 3 students that I teach in a group, and I do struggle sometimes to go and trying to explain even Polish cases that don't exist whatsoever in English, or they do. The cases do exist in English, but in completely different shape and form. So it's fun, and then there are moments I'm just literally just looking at my students and asking them, why the hell you even want to learn this language? It's just crazy, but I applaud them for that.
Another thing that I found very funny is the fact that before you go into a Polish house, you have to take off your shoes. This is actually the same in Ukraine as well. I thought it was a uniquely Asian thing, but no, it seems like a lot of countries on this side of the world, even the Middle Eastern countries, require you to take off your shoes before entering the house. House slippers are definitely a must, and if you walk around the house with shoes or put shoes on your bed like a lot of Westerners do, don't do that here. You're gonna get yelled at.
Yeah, again, same thing was covered last time on the last video. I'm not gonna go into it. Pragmatic, just easy to keep clean, lots of germs. Who wants those germs on your carpet, on your bed? Yuck.
Polish are very clean people, and that's something that I heavily appreciate because their standard of cleanliness is quite similar to how I grew up in my Chinese household. Another thing you want to watch out for is speaking too loudly in public transportation. In some of the more Latin countries, maybe like Spain, Italy, the people are a lot more lively and it's a lot more common to see people talking in the subway. But here, people are quite silent, and it reminds me of maybe Germany. Austria is the same way. So if you go into public transportation, try not to make a lot of noise and be super loud with your friends. Just kind of keep things to yourself and generally be quiet on public transportation.
Yeah, it's a big thing. I'm glad that I don't have to take any buses anymore in UK, but that was really doing my head in whenever I was in a bus and somebody was really speaking loudly and you could hear the whole conversation, or being on the phone or playing their own music. It is just so inconsiderate. I just can't stand that. Although I know it happens that I will play music in public, but I'm trying to be at least reasonably far away from people to not be a nuisance, essentially. Simple as that. My friend Jonathan will know that I actually recently did play audio out loud, and after a few minutes I decided to stop because I could see that people were just giving us looks.
Another thing you don't want to do here is jaywalk. Polish people like to obey the traffic rules. A lot of times if there's no lights or anything, the cars will stop and let you pass. But if you're at the corner of a crosswalk and the light is red, people will not cross the street. So definitely keep that in mind.
It's not only the case that we like to obey the rules. No. So, you will have obviously a police force that, trying to keep peace and quiet and on the streets and everything and households, and is there for the cause when something happens. But we also have something that kind of like a guardians of the town, kind of under the police, and their role is that to make sure that everybody's obeying the rules of the town and no one is littering, that you're not jaywalking, because if they catch you jaywalking, they can actually issue a ticket. They will give you a ticket for jaywalking. Therefore, it's just illegal. That's why we don't do that. I don't know if we still so stern when it comes to we like to follow rules. We are rules followers. That was put in place, and we don't want to be paying fines.
And here's a bonus tip. Be a man of your word and be useful. I think there's an expectation, especially for men, that you can provide value and to be handy around the house, but just be able to do stuff, right? Common complaint that a lot of Polish girls say about their men is that they were baby growing up, and a lot of them are mama's boys. So if you're a man and you're useful and you're always contributing value and you're handy and you're competent, I feel like that trait is very valued here.
Yeah, it's a big thing. And especially now, I think if you really go into Polish TikTok, Instagram, you will see lots of now mentality shifting, especially when it comes to women. Before, women were more providers and taking care of kids, of the house and their husband, almost like another kid in the house. Where women are more now emancipated and really craving men who can then fend for themselves, that you don't have to ask them twice. If you promise that you're gonna do something, we expect that you're gonna do it. Ideally now, not in 2-3 weeks or years. So it is important. And when it comes to more friendships and maybe work relationships, when we promise that we're going to do something, we are going to keep our word. And I still struggle with that whenever somebody makes a promise, or just in a passing promises that, yeah, we need to catch up everything. I take it seriously, thinking that they're gonna, but it is just what you tend to say. And I know I'm guilty of it. I do it now too, because it's just something that you say instead of, yeah, I don't want to meet you again. Yeah, but definitely I'd like to say that we are people of our word. We do try to keep our word. If you promise something, we most of the time will keep it. Obviously, there will be exceptions to the rule, since we know generalizing now Polish people and the culture. So, yeah. And that was the last thing that was covered in this video. So thank you so much for watching. Let us know if you enjoy the content. I did see that a lot of viewers actually watched the last video and they are from Poland. But you folks from rest of the world, let us know, how did you find those videos, if you did like them or not. I enjoyed them thoroughly, so I hope you did too. See you soon. Bye.